to say that now that the IEBC will be carrying out their own internal audit, then the report that they give out, of the verdict that they give of their own audit is the final. Because as a speaker, it is at times it's very difficult for people to objectively audit their own operations. An external eye, an external person to look at the work of IBC would have been necessary. And that's why I think maybe, I don't know whether we have missed an opportunity here to inbuild the services of external credible electoral auditors in the bill as a requirement of the law, that within a specific period of time after an election, then there is this independent external body that is supposed to carry out an audit of the IEBC elections. The Speaker, as I move towards a conclusion of my remarks, I agree and align myself with the sentiments of the majority leader on the fact that in matters delimitation of electoral units, and I like it when the majority leader then admits in public and on record that we are in breach of the Constitution, because that's exactly what we are. We are in breach of the Constitution, and nobody stops anyone from moving to court to seek redress on this matter. That means, the Speaker, this proposed law, the IBC, has dealt very heavily on giving effect to Article 89 of the Constitution. Is always in a hurry to give effect to Article 89 of the Constitution, and always so slow and so disinterested in giving effect to the provisions of Article 188 of the Constitution. Because, the Speaker, if a time comes, then it is necessary to review the boundaries of wards and constituencies, then likewise, the time has come that we must review the boundaries of counties. Mr. Speaker, I have seen now one of the duties that have been assigned to the ABC in this act or bill is to review the names and boundaries of constituencies, which is fine. But, Mr. Speaker, because we are not assigning county responsibilities to IBC, now I have seen that the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, Mr. Speaker, Senator Medo and Senator Cheruiyot are in breach of the orders of the Speaker yesterday. Just protect me from those two.
Bring the house to spin. What did the Speaker say?
The Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the chair, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for that opportunity. The Speaker yesterday, Mr. Speaker, in communication from the chair, pleaded with us members that we must conduct our business with decorum.
Senator Mohammed Faki, reason to what
it's exactly the same thing that the Speaker was saying yesterday, Mr. Speaker. We have turned this house into nearly a marketplace where people come in, and instead of following debate and contributing to debate, they transact other personal businesses. They are always on phone. That's the communication from the Speaker yesterday. In fact, the Speaker said that we should not push the chair to a point that he may have to rule that there will be no phones allowed in the chamber. Now you can see a lot of people, including my sister, are already on the phone. The Speaker, the import of that communication yesterday was that we receive guests. I've been asked to communicate something, I'm just communicating. Yes. So we receive guests in this house.
That waiting on your time, of 20 minutes.
That's okay. That's okay, Mr. Speaker. I mean, I'm okay. Yeah. Gloria, I'm okay. Don't worry about me. We receive guests in this house, Mr. Speaker. And when they see us now, consulting in loud tones, walking on the gangways when debate is going on. Speak on the phone like the majority is doing now. They think we are not very serious. That was the communication yesterday, Mr. Speaker. I believe you are properly updated. So, Mr. Speaker, the Speaker was saying, I was saying, the Speaker, that the NCIC, I saw yesterday, they have actually now gone a step further, and they are proposing a change in the names of certain counties, including your own county, Mr. Speaker, when you sit as Senator of Meru. And the arguments are sound that we have counties that are named or share names with communities, dominant communities within the boundaries, making it uneasy for other members of other communities living in those counties to also feel like they belong to that county. The Speaker, so I was wondering whether then we have missed an opportunity to assign even an advisory role to the IBC to this independent commission contemplated in Article 188 of the Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, when and if it is time to delimit or to review the boundaries of counties, then the IBC should have a role to play.
Senator Nyutu, you are wondering to be out of order, Senator Joe Nyutu. The space behind the chair can be well utilized to make calls and to do other things all outside. So, because I was part to that decision which was made and the communication made by the Speaker, I did ask members to desist from picking calls from the chamber. Proceed.
Thank you, the Speaker. So, the Speaker, in conclusion, I would urge members to give their input to this bill, but of course, the Speaker, bearing in mind, as I said, that this bill is a product of a negotiation. Senator Cherage, those mannerisms form part of the warnings of the Speaker yesterday. Mr. Speaker, I reserve the right to declare my support or opposition to the bill at whatever point in my submission. That is debate 001. So, Mr. Speaker, I fully support the bill and urge members to debate this bill, but also be informed by, we want to read the report which has just been tabled, the report of JLAC, to see what their thinking is. And I hope that at the end of the day, then we are going to fast track this bill. If there is a bill, Mr. Speaker, that we need to have passed like last year, it's actually this bill. For the simple reason as properly captured by the majority leader. We have people in this country who are not represented in parliament because the IBC is not properly constituted. If we can finish with this bill and properly constitute IBC, then we can carry out elections in Vanessa and in those wards where there are vacancies for representatives of the people. As a Speaker, with those many remarks, I support.
Next is Senator Muma Muyeka. You know, Senator Muma, your first name is almost a one that has been used the last 2 weeks. Catherine.
I don't know whether I can
So,
tell Chair to be
I will
in
take
order.
amend
I'm
your
sorry.
name at some point. Proceed and use your minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on behalf of the Chair, JLAC, to just quickly read out the amendments that JLAC has proposed to this bill.
Senator Kadri Numa.
Yes.
Honorable Senators, you know when the chair is here and he gives senators to make or to debate, it is out of so many things that I've given a member, even from this, I can give even 3 from this side. So when I give Senator Enoch and Senator Catherine from my left, what is the problem with that? You can sit in any side of the house. So nobody should direct the speaker. And I'm a very sober guy. Who eats mura and everything. So I'm very alert. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, for that. This personalizing of issues is not very good. Mr. Chair, Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, sorry with all the confusion. Honorable Speaker, I rise on behalf of the Chair of JLAC to present the amendments proposed by JLAC so that as members debate, they might want to also contextualize that. And Honorable Speaker, I might request that the Secretariat just print out, it's a one-pager of the JLAC, extract the JLAC proposed amendments from the report and share with the members so that members can contextualize as they speak. So I'll straight away go to the amendments. Mr. Speaker, the JLAC has largely accepted the IEBC amendment bill as is, but has proposed some further amendments to actually improve that bill for the sake of the Senate, largely. At clause 2, we have proposed that in paragraph A, which describes parliamentary party as that where is it? Which describes a parliamentary party or coalition parties to mean consisting of not less than 5% of membership of the National Assembly. We have proposed that we add the words "and Senate," so that we are speaking about the National Assembly and the Senate. That is the proposal that we have inserted in the proposed clause 2 amendment. We have then further added another clause, G, that will again indicate that whenever there is an expression of a parliamentary committee, that this should not just refer to the National Assembly, but it should refer to both the National Assembly and the Senate. Honorable Speaker, in clause 3, the JLAC has proposed that clause 3 be deleted and be substituted with the following clause. So that we provide that those who are being appointed as commissioners must have 10 years experience. We think the JLAC feels that that is a very important commission, and we should provide a higher bar in terms of experience of commissioners. So the JLAC members proposed that this be increased to an experience of 10 years. And then we have actually carried the day in terms of the proposed inclusion of qualifications on information, communication, and technology, and those on accounting. In clause 7, Mr. Speaker, in the new proposed clause 24B, we have proposed to insert the words of each House of Parliament immediately after the word parliamentary committee. Again, this is to ensure that the continued interpretation of parliament to mean National Assembly is corrected so that both Senate and National Assembly are included in that definition. And again, in subclause 2 of section 6, we are again proposing that at the end of the words National Assembly, we add the word the relevant, we substitute that with the words the relevant House of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, in B, we are proposing in paragraph 7 of the new proposed 24B to delete the words National Assembly appearing in the beginning of the paragraph and substitute that with the words each House of Parliament. In C, in paragraph 8 of the new proposed section 24B, we have proposed the inserting of the word and the Senate immediately after the word National Assembly. And finally, in paragraph 9 of the new proposed 24B, by inserting the word Senate immediately after the word National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, these are amendments that will actually bring on board. They were not considered by NADCO, but they are absolutely important for the Senate to be taken.
Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I was wondering in the rules of debate, I thought we are still at the second reading, not in the committee of the whole. Although I appreciate what Senator Muma is doing, are we in third committee stage, or are we in second reading? Because the rules of debate is that you engage, you give us merits and demerits, not giving us the amendments that the committee proposed. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, as per the rules of debate and vis-a-vis the rules of the committee stage?
Maybe you refer to your standing orders and then you come back to me. Refer the standing orders where that matter is addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said clearly, it was our intention to just share what we've put so that you take it into account. Because if you focus on that, just the clauses that were brought by NADCO, you will miss on the very many others that we have brought on board, which actually made Senate not to be an equal house.
To me, Senator
thank you
Muma,
very much.
you are enriching debate, actually. You are enriching debate. That is the other one we can use.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I wish to stop there so that others can have a chance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Now you can proceed to the other duty that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Senator Mbu.
So Senator Muma has done a very good.
For a minute.
Yeah, you have a minute.
Sit for a minute. Okay.
What is the problem with you people? I just ignore you. Mr. Speaker, so Senator Muma, as you rightly ruled, has enriched debate and then introduced the provisions of the jailer committee to the bill that we are debating. So then what I need is guidance from the chair, whether now the bill that will be debated will be as amended or as enriched by Senator Muma, or is as tabled, moved by the majority leader, in which case then, are we doing that reading in second reading? Senator Cheragay, you read your standing order. I'm on a point of order. How can you be another point of order? So you mean you can rise on a point of order, on a point of clarification? People think. People think.
Senator Mbu, stop engaging other members. Stop engaging them. What is your point of order, Senator Cheragay?
Mr. Speaker, you know this house is a house of rules. Understanding order number 97. Senator Wambua had contributed to this matter. So even the standing orders ourselves should guide us. Why would we want to speak to the same matter? Mr. Speaker, the standing order Mr.
He-
Speaker,
he is
speaking
not
twice.
debating.
Mr. Speaker, can you kindly listen to me, understanding order 97? No senator shall speak more than once to a question except in the committee of the whole. Senator
he-
Wambua should have waited until we are in the committee of the whole, Mr.
He
Speaker.
was seeking clarification. He
No,
was not
Mr. Speaker,
debating.
it doesn't happen. It says you cannot in this
I
standing
used
order
standing
97.
order number 1 to give him that opportunity. Also, I thought the House can benefit from whatever clarification.
But you can introduce
he
in
was
the
asking.
committee of the whole, Mr. Speaker.
And also the chair is not here to Ngagi members.
No,
That is not one of my duties. Senator Roba, you know, let us hear what you have, because you are also today making some noise. Let us hear what you have in your mind.
Thank you,
Whether
Speaker.
it is corresponding to what you have done this morning.
Thank you, Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute. My personality is that I must speak up. It's not noise. Mr. Speaker, as I support this bill, Mr. Speaker, I would like to add my voice on particular matters, starting with the delimitation of electoral units, Mr. Speaker. You can see there that the commission says, the bill says that the commission shall discharge its mandate of the delimitation of boundaries. And it's talking about electoral units, Mr. Speaker. But if you go further and see what they are outlining, you will notice that, first of all, an electoral unit is either a ward, a constituency, or a county. All of these units are within devolution, Mr. Speaker. And yet, when you look at how they are outlining the responsibility and what is happening in that section, you will note that the same is limited to National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. You can reference the part where they say that the parliamentary committee shall within 14 days of receipt revise preliminary report and table the report. That parliamentary committee doesn't specify whether it will be limited to the National Assembly or to the National Assembly and the Senate. The next point, they say the National Assembly shall within 14 days of tabling the revised preliminary reports. So again, they are referencing the National Assembly. On the next point, again, you will see that it's about the National Assembly. So even on the role of the delimitation of boundaries, which actually is a core function of devolution, because you have the wards there, you have the constituencies, and you have the counties, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker. And you know that Senate as the upper house is there to protect the devolution, Mr. Speaker, yet we have absolutely no role based on this bill that has been proposed. We have no role, we have no particular influence in this structure that is being proposed. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, so that you understand, Madam Speaker, so that you understand the seriousness of this matter is that on all boundary disputes that we are experiencing now, I will give an example of the boundary disputes that we have between Nyamira County and Kisii in Keroka, Madam Speaker. If we have no influence as the Senate to make sure that we are protecting devolution, you'll find that some of the decisions that will be taken here based on the numbers that we have in the National Assembly will mean that, for instance, Keroka can move suddenly to Nyamira from Kisii County, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker. And yet, at the end of the day, the Senate has got no role to play in this particular proposal that is being put here, Madam Speaker. So I would like that to be noted, because if this bill is passed as it is, the Senate then becomes redundant in matters of delimitation of boundaries, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, another issue on this particular matter on delimitation of boundaries is that you notice that it is centrally squared in the National Assembly. Yet, if you are going to increase the number of wards or decrease the number of wards or increase the number of constituencies, Madam Speaker, the first beneficiary or the first loser of that particular action is a member of parliament from the National Assembly. Meaning, you are actually allowing the judge of the outcome of a situation where they are either a loser or a beneficiary to be someone who's already partisan. An example that I can give you, we have been trying I come from Bobasi constituency where I reside, Madam Speaker, and our constituency is very, very huge, Madam Speaker. We have 8 wards. In those 8 wards, if you look at the issues that we have to deal with a constituency, a neighboring constituency like Bonchari constituency, Madam Speaker, even in terms of resources, it doesn't make economic sense. But if that bill is taken to the National Assembly, where my sitting member of parliament of Bobasi constituency is seated, outrightly based on clan issues and re-election issues, he is going to completely vote against having 2 constituencies in Bobasi, Madam Speaker. Yet that is the person who we are now entrusting squarely in terms of delimitation of boundaries. So in that aspect, I even think that if we are going to talk about increase of wards or constituencies or even counties, Madam Speaker, in fact, that should be a role that should either be completely independent from both houses, both the Senate and the National Assembly, in a way that it is only IEBC based on the metrics and the statistics that they have, that they decide what is there. Or if you are going to involve either of the houses, it has to be both houses voting for or against it, because it will be both houses benefiting or losing. And by that, I say as a politician who gets CDF based on the number of wards that they have, if they are told now, we are reducing your number of wards, they are not going to vote for that thing. So this is something that we really haven't thought through. And my proposal would be to have both houses completely not part of the delimitation of boundaries in terms of the decision of whether to increase or reduce, or to have both houses come on board to vote for the same or to participate in the same, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also want to weigh in terms of what we have on the composition of the commission, Madam Speaker. And it might sound cliche that every time I stand, I will be standing on the issue of gender parity, on the issue of women representation. But Madam Speaker, I'm specially elected to actually do this job of ensuring that women and girls are represented in all spaces. On the issue of the composition of the commission, Madam Speaker, there is a clear process and outlining of who in terms of skill set, of who in terms of the background. Now we are talking about bringing accountants on board, adding more ICT specialists on board. But somehow, and this is the strange part, because this bill is actually one of the bills under NADCO, which was a national dialogue. A national dialogue that is supposed to include women, because women will form more than 51% of this population. Yet, when you look at all the proposals that I see here, there is no attempt on engaging the gender parity. As a matter of fact, so that senators in the House might not think I'm just speaking passionately out of nowhere, when Senator Wambua was saying we need to get off our phones, Madam Speaker, some of us, when we're on our phones here, we are researching and ensuring that the points that we are speaking are actually factual, so that you don't stand on a point of order 105 on factual points. Madam Speaker, if you look at the commission for Samuel Kivuite, if you look at the members and don't look at anything, don't look at the skill set, don't look at the ethnical background, just look at gender parity, Madam Speaker, you will see that we had Mr. Bashir, Mr. Elifelet, Mr. Henry, Mr. Edward, Mr. Frank, Mr. Nathaniel, and then we had Wangui, the lady, one, Madam Speaker. That is Kivuiti's commission, the members that were there, Madam Speaker. You know, so that, you know, I like speaking from data. If you look at how we have actually progressed in terms of representation of women in politics, in active politics, Madam Speaker, from 2003, we have had 7.14% of women elected to parliament, to the Parliament of Kenya. That has gradually increased to 2022, where we are talking about 23.4%, Madam Speaker. Then I was looking at the commission to see if there's any influence or anything. Madam Speaker, the latest IEBC commissioners, if you go and look at the members, you'll find that at least then we had 2 women out of the total commissioners that are there. So if we are having now an opportunity to dictate who becomes a commissioner, where they come from, whether a religious background, a political institution, or what, why are we not being intentional in terms of ensuring that at least our 2/3 gender threshold is met? There is nowhere in this proposal where it says that out of all of these members, at least 2/3 should be of one gender, Madam Speaker. I believe that is something that needs to be looked into, because I've given you the data, I've given you the statistics, again, coming from a proposal that had a special bipartisan committee from both sides of the divide. And both sides of the divide did not even think about women, those people who are in that particular committee, Madam Speaker. I'm very disappointed in that essence about this particular issue that is there, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, finally, I want to say this, that in every single bill that comes to the House, this House, the upper house, the Senate, Madam Speaker, we need to be careful with how we are engaging these bills, because sometimes, and I have said this before, we are pushing the agenda of the National Assembly. And when I look at all the references made in this bill, we are actually proposing that the National Assembly takes charge in terms of
Senator
all the
Gloria,
procedures.
would you wish to be informed by Senator Wakoli?
Yes, I'll be informed.
Asante. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to bring it to the attention of my good senator that as they have been constituting this, I think it is in page 309, the last 2C, in nominating the persons subparagraph 2A, B, and E, the respective nominating bodies shall ensure that no more than 2/3 of the nominees are of the same gender. The breakdown of the persons to be nominated. Yes, so I think you are in spirit and you are fighting a good cause. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. And that is why I agreed to be informed by you, because I know you always have proper information. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I want to say that, Madam Speaker, the NADCO committee, as I congratulate them for the proposed bills that we are going to see, because there are several of them, Madam Speaker, I have to speak and say that it was very unfortunate that the issue of the 2/3 gender was actually excluded from the NADCO reports. And Madam Speaker, we know that as much as we tried to mitigate and find a way to ensure that we finally deal with the 2/3 gender rule, Madam Speaker, we know that both houses, the National Assembly and the Senate, are guided by standing orders. There was an assumption that by having a sit down with both the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate, that somehow we could be able to sneak in the proposals and the amendments that we wanted to have to ensure that the 2/3 gender rule is finally met. But Madam Speaker, our standing orders are very clear. Once the report was tabled by the committee and the report did not have a matter, in particular for this instance, the 2/3 gender bill or recommendations, Madam Speaker, then we know that when that bill, if at all it comes now as a standalone bill, Madam Speaker, the chances of it passing, because again of the numbers that we have in both the National Assembly and the Senate, is that the chances of it passing are nil, Madam Speaker. That is the reality that we are in. As a matter of fact, when we are talking about the NADCO bills, it is imperative that I clear the air, because people are saying that it will still come as a NADCO bill. No, Madam Speaker, it will not come as a NADCO bill. It will come as a standalone bill. And in that essence, Madam Speaker, because it is not going to be a NADCO bill, then the spirit of the House will not be the spirit of bipartisanship, which is what is happening with the NADCO bills. You will note that the NADCO bills, as much as we are both in government and opposition, there is an assumption and we have agreed in passing that we are going to pass these bills, Madam Speaker. Again, I find that in that essence, as I'm contributing to this bill, I find that it was a clear sabotage on the women agenda, Madam Speaker. And as I congratulate the NADCO committee, I also have to fault them for ensuring that 51% of the population of Kenya, yet again, in an opportunity that we could have maximized, Madam Speaker, we have actually let down the women of Kenya. The 2/3 gender bill is not part of a NADCO bill, is not going to come as a NADCO bill. And in that essence, then, Madam Speaker, we will continue to fight that in every single amendment that comes to this House, there is an intentional approach of ensuring that women and girls are represented. Thank you, Senator Wakoli, for pointing out that particular section that says that not more than 2/3. I do hope that when we pass this bill, it will actually be implemented, because as you have seen in the past list of commissioners, we actually never met the 2/3 gender rule. And if it continues like that, then it is obvious that the most important independent body in the industry of politics, in the field of politics, will not have women represented in it. And in essence, this just contributes to ensuring that we have less and less women being represented in both the National Assembly and the Senate. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I would like to say that I support the bill, and I will be in the House to ensure that I rally people during the Committee of the Whole to make sure that we ensure that women are represented in all of these single line items in the bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Faki.
Asante Bi Spika kunipa fursa hii kuchangia mswada wa mabadiliko wa sheria ya IEBC. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni masikitiko kwamba sasa kwa zaidi ya mwaka mmoja hatujakuwa na tume ya uchaguzi katika nchi yetu, na mswada huu utasaidia pakubwa kuweka tume ofisini ili iweze kufanya kura katika baadhi ya maeneo bunge kadhaa na vile vile maeneo ya wodi ambayo hayana wawakilishi kwa sasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, la msingi ni kwamba wale ambao watachaguliwa kwanza katika ile jopo la kuchagua na vile vile wale makamishna ambao watachaguliwa wawe ni watu wenye tajiriba na watu wenye ukweli na kusimamia haki, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu tumeona kwamba kutoka tuanze kupiga kura, mahali ambapo pameweza kuleta shida sana ni katika tume ya uchaguzi wa kura. Kutoka tulipoanza kura za kwanza za vyama vingi mwaka 1992 mpaka mwaka 2002 ndio tulipata kura ya kwanza ambayo ilikuwa haina shaka, Mheshimiwa Spika. Vile vile tumeona kura zilizofuata zote zimekuwa na shida na vile vile zikaenda mahakamani, na mahakama pia vile vile kwa upande mwingine pia ikaja ikaleta hukumu ambazo hazieleweki. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, tukipata watu wenye tajiriba kuu ambayo wanaweza kusimamia haki, Mheshimiwa Spika, itakuwa bora kwa nchi yetu, kwa sababu tutaweka kaburi la sahau matatizo ambayo yanatokea muda tu baada ya kura kuisha. Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile tumeona kwamba sheria hii itatoa nafasi kwa IEBC kusimamia mipaka ya maeneo bunge na vile vile maeneo wodi katika nchi yetu. Tumeona kwamba kutoka katiba ipitishwe mwaka 2010 hatujaweza kukagua tena maeneo bunge na labda kubadilisha majina ama kutoa mipaka mipya ya maeneo yetu, na tumeona Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba kumekuwa na mkurupuko ama mlipuko wa wingi wa watu katika maeneo yetu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambapo tunapata kwamba maeneo mengine yana watu wengi kupita kiasi, eneo bunge likiwa na wapigaji kura zaidi ya 300,000 na maeneo bunge mengine anawapiga kura 20,000 au 30,000. Hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika sio sawa, kwa sababu tunataka nchi yetu iwe kuwe na usawa wa uwakilishi ili watu wasipate shida kutafuta mbunge wao, kwa sababu mbunge ana watu wengi sana wa kuwasimamia. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba swala hili la mipaka lazima liende katika bunge la kitaifa na pia lije katika bunge la Senate, kwa sababu sisi Senate ndio tunasimamia ugatuzi, na ugatuzi unawakilishwa mashinani na mabunge ya county, na kwa vile mabunge ya county yanachaguliwa moja kwa moja kutoka kwa wananchi, Mheshimiwa Spika, itafaa kwamba mswada wa kubadilisha maeneo wodi lazima ifike katika bunge la Senate ili iweze kuangaliwa na kukaguliwa kisawasawa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kumalizia ni kwamba ni masikitiko kwamba tumeona bunge la kitaifa liliweza kuwatimua makamishna wa zamani wanne bila ya kufuata mwongozo wa kisawasawa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa yule mwenye kushtaki hata ile bodi ambayo tume ambayo ilichaguliwa na rais ilikuwa wao ndio wenye kushtaki, wao ndio wenye kuchunguza na wao ndio waliotoa hukumu ya kuondoa watu wale, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo inafaa, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa shughuli kwa siku za usoni, mswada wote wa kuondoa makamishna, kwa sababu makamishna wale ndio wanasimamia kura za wabunge, kura za magavana, kura za maseneta. Lazima mswada ule pia uweze kufikishwa katika bunge la Senate ili tuwe na uamuzi kwa swala hilo. Asante Bi Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
John Yuto? No, sorry. Senator Mukatana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also give my views on this bill. Madam Speaker, I will make only 3 points. The first one is on the selection panel. Madam Speaker, I support this proposal very much because those of us who have been around, you will remember in the days of the second president, Daniel Moi, and the days of Justice Chesoni as the head of the commission that is charged with electoral processes. Madam Speaker, in those days, Kenya used to appoint the head of the Electoral Commission, and it was a direct appointment. There was no processes in between. We have since progressed to a position where there is a select committee the selection committee that would appoint the people who are supposed to be commissioners. That is progression number 2. But then now this bill has brought progression number 3. That, Madam Speaker, what we have now is a scrutiny of the selection panel itself, which is a development of what was the initial selection panel. So, Madam Speaker, I think this is a very good development and we should support it. And Madam Speaker, we should support and pass this because Kenya, Madam Speaker, in the African continent, and at this time, Madam Speaker, I'm serving as the head of delegation for Pan-African Parliament. Madam Speaker, we are held in very high esteem because of this kind of thing. People discuss Kenya. How do you choose your commissioners? Madam Speaker, it will be a pleasure when we go next for the sessions to tell them, nowadays, it's not the president who appoints. Nowadays, it's not a selection commission which appoints. We have even interrogated the very selection commission committee so that the selection panel itself is a democratized institution. So, Madam Speaker, I think we need to agree that we shall support that on principle. Secondly, on the same issue, Madam Speaker, in Tana River County, we are affected because we lost a very able UDA member of county assembly from the ward called Chewani Ward. Madam Speaker, Chewani Ward is in fact like the headquarters of Tana River County. The honorable member who was chosen there, we used to call him Doeni, he didn't stay for too long. He left us because of a tragic road accident. Madam Speaker, the people, and we used to call him the mayor of Tana River because he's right at the center. He went away, and the people of Chewani Ward have remained without representation. So, Madam Speaker, it is of interest to the people of Tana River that this process that will bring in the selection panel and re-establish the IEBC be done as fast as possible. So, Madam Speaker, we have a reason to support this bill, to go as fast as it can, with the amendments that I shall be discussing later on in my contribution. So, Madam Speaker, on the selection panel, I leave it there. On the question of delimitation of boundaries, Madam Speaker, I would like to bring to the attention of the House that the process is very, very detailed on how we are going, the IBC is going to delimit the boundary. But Madam Speaker, I wanted, for purposes of debate and those who are listening to us, to outline that the schedule that has been provided in this bill is talking about giving public sensitization and then giving a public hearing, those regulations within the third schedule. They make it such that everybody in Tana River would know that there is this process going on. Because, Madam Speaker, in the past, our county, and I'm sure many other counties, it is only the elite who used to participate, giving names, giving opinions in delimitation of boundaries, giving opinions in delimitation of wards. At that time, they used to be called councillor. They used to be called wards, but the members were called councillors. It was only the elite, and people really didn't quite engage. But I'm very glad that in this proposed bill, proposed clause, third schedule, that, Madam Speaker, the people are going to be involved. There will be public hearings. There will be notices. It's not the normal public participation that is said in general, because we have had abuse of what is public participation. Some people, like in the counties, and all of us are aware, people just select the same people to go and sit, and they say there was public participation. The same people are given allowance. The same people are moved from place to place, and then we are told public participation happened. But in this one, there is public hearings, Madam Speaker. It is very clearly delimited. They have gone ahead to explain what would be the concept of public participation under the third schedule. So that elaborate procedure is well taken care of within this bill, and I urge senators, we support this proposed system of delimiting boundaries. Madam Speaker, one of the regulations actually demands that the officers, and they mention them, like the director of survey, is demanded upon by this regulation to give cooperation to the IBC when they are carrying out this process. So that there is a demand that officers from government must give support to this process. So, Madam Speaker, we want to see how this will work out, because in Tana River County, Madam Speaker, places where the wards, our constituencies, where we are bordering with my kind neighbor, Honorable Enoch Wambua from Kitui, places where we voted, places where our people campaigned and voted for candidates, for wards, candidates all the way to the president, places that were in Tana River. Madam Speaker, because of recent disputes that we had, some of them going very bad, and the involvement of police, we have had schools that were actually in Tana River County being annexed by Kitui County. And yet there are polling stations, as we stand now, there are polling stations gazetted on the side of Tana River. So I would be very interested in seeing how we will resolve these issues, because we need to have a resolution. Whether the wards and the areas that are Tana River, or our areas that we have delimited with the IBC, are now going to be said under the director of survey that they're on the other side. So, Madam Speaker, I hope this process will be proper and transparent, and it will settle some of the disputes that we are having on the boundaries with some of our counties, our neighbors in these counties. So I want to laud the third schedule that is proposed in this bill, and I want to really thank the people who put in some thought around that area. The only thing, Madam Speaker, that was not spoken to on the question of delimitation is about the question of the protected constituencies. Madam Speaker, and I'm told that maybe regulations will be set, or maybe it will be a political question that needs to be resolved from the highest officers of this land. But Madam Speaker, every time the word delimitation, every time the word population is mentioned, those of us who come from counties that have huge areas but limited populations, we get very worried. Because as we are speaking now, Madam Speaker, if we go with what the constitutional thresholds have predetermined, in Tana River County, we stand to lose at least one constituency. And Madam Speaker, in fact, if we go strictly by what is supposed to happen, two constituencies are supposed to go so that they merge into one. And that is the constituency of Bura constituency and the Galole constituency. Garsen has the correct populations and all the other parameters. So, Madam Speaker, I would have thought that the NADCO report, on the basis of protecting minorities and on the basis of protecting sparsely populated areas, would have gone to propose constitutional amendments that would protect these areas, these constituencies. Why I say so, Madam Speaker, is because members of parliament who are coming from those areas that are currently protected are worried. Are these constituencies going to be there in the next election? Our people who are voters in those constituencies are worried. Are these constituencies going to be protected? So even as we are talking about the whole area of proper procedure in delimitation, we must also put in our minds the political question of how do we protect these areas that are constituencies that are protected currently, and what do we tell the people, because the people are worried. We have an answer now to the people of Tana River and elsewhere that the wards and the constituencies will be contested once the IBC selection panel is done and the commissioners are in place. We have an answer. But as to how many constituencies the protected constituencies are going to be there, and as to whether those constituencies are going to be available for contest by the honorable members who are seated there or those who are aspiring, and as to whether those constituencies, the voters are going to actually continue benefiting from CDF, we don't have an answer. And I think NADCO should have dealt with this so that people have certainty in terms of the politics of our counties and politics of our constituencies. Madam Speaker, and I just want to underline and emphasize that in this country, we must be fair as we talk about population. I have had other people in this Senate and outside saying if a constituency has 300,000 people and another one has 20,000 people, then it is fair that maybe we give more resources to this other one and leave the other one. But Madam Speaker, I wanted to give a very simple example. In that area where there are 300,000 people in one constituency, the likelihood is that schools are day scholars. People just walk to school and they are back at home. And if you are awarding CDF, for example, and you give them 5,000, 3,000, the day scholar would still walk to school and come back. But in some of our areas, Madam Speaker, you would have to send that child to go and book a lodge. Let's say they have been given 10,000 everyone. He still has to travel, book a place to sleep for the night, and then travel again the following day for him to reach his boarding school, Madam Speaker. Schools are that far. And when the rains have come as they have right now, or the floods have come as they have right now, they will spend, if not the 3,000 like the person of 300,000 members, citizens, they would spend the 10,000 or the 9,000 because of the travel expenses and accommodation. So even that small example will tell you you still need equal resources, if not more, for those areas. Why, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker? It's because we have somehow to pay for the sins of this country. And I argue this way because we committed a sin some times ago. Madam Speaker, any person who has read sessional paper number 10 of 1965, that Madam Speaker specifically said the resources of this country, which we have collected from everybody, will be concentrated in high potential areas. Madam Speaker, it was so bad that in parts where we come from, people were saying, tunaenda Kenya, as we are going to Kenya. And it is because of how hard life was. We thank God for the devolution and the things it has done. We thank God for CDF and the things it has done. So in terms of reparation for these areas, I want to persuade honorable members here, even outside, that when we say, don't touch CDF, leave it like that, don't say it is unfair, because historically, we are doing reparation to some of these areas. So, Madam Speaker, finally, I want to talk about the question of the JLAC proposals to this, to amend this bill. Madam Speaker, I have listened carefully to the proposals from the committee of JLAC here, the Senate Committee on Legal. Madam Speaker, the proposals that the Senate Committee has proposed are so important that I am urging members at the third reading, we must ensure that we pass our amendments in this House, Madam Speaker. We cannot have a situation where we are passing a law that is against us. And you see, Madam Speaker, a lot of times people don't pay attention to these things, like one honorable senator has said, that we debate the principles and the details, we leave them out. I think what JLAC has proposed, we must make sure those amendments passed. They are passed at third reading, so that when we take them back to the National Assembly and the National Assembly agrees with them, then it is good, because both houses must be represented in these processes. But if the National Assembly says no, we must stick our guns and we must go for mediation. We must not allow a situation where even things to do with boundary demarcation, we are being told that we are not, we are not part of that. It is the National Assembly. Why? We should not accept that. We should not pass any such laws. And I really want to commend the Justice and Legal Committee for the work they have done. Those proposals they have made, let us not leave even one of them to go without passing at the third reading. And Madam Speaker, I pray that a special announcement be made when that matter is coming, when this bill is coming for committee of the whole, so that we are all there and we make a shame of those people who, and we get to know the betrayers of the Senate, because some are seated with us and they are supporters of the National Assembly, because in the next election, some have even declared that they are going to run in the National Assembly. Some of us have been there. We don't want the National Assembly ever again. We are in a senior house and we must put our house in order. It is not a solution for you to support whatever National Assembly brings because we intend to run there in the next election. I think we must make a special arrangement so that at the committee of the whole, we support the amendments that JLAC has proposed, so that, Madam Speaker, we are able to keep the dignity of this House, especially on matters to do with delimitation of boundaries. Madam Speaker, as I sit and conclude, I wanted to say it is so very well to prepare a panel to appoint IEBC commissioners and everybody else. But Madam Speaker, there is a critical thing about the automation and the systems in the IEBC that we have not yet touched in this bill. Madam Speaker, when I inquired, why is it that nothing has been discussed about the electoral system, how we vote, how we transmit the results to the constituency, how the presidential results are being transmitted up to the bombers of Kenya at the national? Madam Speaker, I was told that there will be regulations by the IEBC. I pray, Madam Speaker, that this be done in good time. The problem with human beings, Madam Speaker, they are subject to manipulation. But systems, if left to work efficiently, they are less subject to manipulation as opposed to human beings. So we must, the way forward.
That is fine. Just
Yes,
one
Madam Speaker.
minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was just concluding and saying the way forward for our electoral system is for us to prepare foolproof, automated systems. It's not even in selection of these people. Because even if we select commissioners, some are with you today, some are against you. Some are against you today, some are with you tomorrow. But systems, if they are foolproof, if we all agree, the opposition and the government side, they all agree that this system is the one we'll go, I'm sure that we will have less acrimony after results are announced. Madam Speaker, we should invest all the attention on the systems rather than the personnel. For me, the personnel we have seen from the previous election that people can just do things. But Madam Speaker, if it is machines, when we go to pay KRA, they don't care. You pay this amount, you must pay. If you have overloaded your lorry, it passes and it's in your name, you must pay. It doesn't know you are a member of parliament, you are a senator, you are a governor. If it's overloaded, you have to pay. And this is how systems will help us give more credible results as elections are being done. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to support with those amendments proposed by Jay Laika. Thank you.
Senator Osoti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity again to make my voice heard on the IEBC amendment bill. Mr. Speaker, we must commend the NADICO team for coming up with this bill. And I want to join my colleague, Senator Wambua, to say that this is a product of bipartisan negotiations between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. And I think quite a number of the proposals contained in this bill are going to address some of the challenges that we have had in this country in terms of election management. But I also think a lot needs to be done, Madam Speaker, to ensure that we have a level playing field in our election. And we will also have an opportunity to look at the proposals contained in the elections amendment bill, which is also a product of NADICO. Madam Speaker, allow me to comment on the composition of the selection panel. The bill says that 2 persons shall be nominated by the Parliamentary Service Commission to represent the minority and majority parties. Mr. Speaker, whereas I agree with that, I think there is something missing in that. What is missing in that is how political parties will be directly involved in that nomination process. Because if you give that task purely to the Parliamentary Service Commission to determine for you the choice of the minority and the choice of the majority, you are likely not to get the right people that the parties want
to be represented with. I want to give an example. The current panel, someone who was nominated to represent Azimio, who was not even known to Azimio leadership. So we want a scenario, and I will be proposing amendment on this, that we must have a preliminary process done by